I guess like it's fair to say like in our society, definitely living in Canada, there's like a lot of misconceptions, a lot of things that you might see Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and people deem it as permissible whether you're marrying outside of your religion. But from my understanding, Muslim man marries a Muslim woman. For obviously there's reasons behind that, which I hold deep to my heart, and there's like a reason why that is the case. So I guess my question is it ever permissible to marry outside of your religion? And if so, like what would the case be? Or if not, why is it not permissible?
Okay, so first of all, why do we not marry non-Muslims, mm-hmm. right? So the why is it's not my body, right? So meaning that I cannot just eat whatever I want to, right? I cannot have relationships with whoever I want to, right? So there are some guidance and criteria and principles that my Lord has sent to me and He has prescribed to me. If I want to obey and if I want to be compliant, then I should be following that, mm-hmm. right? And that's just like, some boundaries, right? But after those boundaries, I have a lot of options, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not saying, only marry from certain color or your own ethnicity or this and that. It has some boundaries. Apart from that, marry whoever you like, right? So similarly, from that is like you cannot marry your sister, right? That's from the law, right? Or your mother or what have you. Right now, today, this may seem like very well aligned from the society that we are living in, but the way we are going in, maybe 10, 20 years down the road, somebody may say, may Allah protect us, why can't I marry my sister? Right? Because people, as the way we are progressing, anything can be possible then, right? Mm-hmm. But from Islamic law, you cannot. So similarly, you cannot marry non-Muslims. Right now, the why has actually been given in Quran, mm-hmm. yeah. right? So Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says, when He says, don't marry, from non-believers, and whether male or female, and a believing, person is better than, right? Even if it's weak in his status, right? To paraphrase, he is better than a non-believing, rich, beautiful person. Okay, why? Because they call to hellfire. Mm-hmm. What does that mean, they call to hellfire? Just imagine, right? So right now, today, obviously when we try to marry, even if you keep religion aside, you would marry someone who's compatible in terms of your education, in terms of their, goals and aspiration of life and finances and what have you, right? You wouldn't, if you have a certain thing that, okay, I don't think we should be spending money on X, Y, Z, you probably wouldn't marry someone who has a totally different view of, how they spend their money. And so on and so forth. So now, we were talking about it earlier, right? When we talked about disclosing to your family. So imagine, marrying someone, they don't care about Islam, right? They don't have those restrictions. They don't have that submission. They do either whatever religion they're following or whatever they feel like doing. Will that person be conducive or helpful for you to actually practice your religion?
No,
right?
Not at all.
So yeah, it would be you can remove the pain. Now I have someone, I have a spouse, I have a partner, whatever, but that person will never actually be a good match for you to be able to practice your religion, right? Now, on the other hand, there's another thought there.
Sorry, if I could just so let's say you have just going based off of that. Let's say you have a couple who one spouse or one person's non-Muslim, the other person is, and they decide, well, okay, I'm going to convert for my husband, for my wife. How does that work? To me, it doesn't really make a lot of sense because I don't really feel like you're doing it for the right reasons.
Great.
And I don't think that you can convert but are you really going to hold those values true
exactly.
and dear to yourself and not just for your spouse? Because I personally don't think, you can be married for 10, 50 years, but you might not still be in that state of that love marriage the whole time. And then what happens? Yep. You converted for this person. Are you going to regret it down the line? Are you going to resent her or resent him? So yeah.
I think that's a great question, and that kind of leads me to the two other points that I had. One is, look, another thing of marrying the person with the same religion is hopefully you're not so fed up with them that you actually want to retire with them in paradise, right? So if you actually want that to happen, that means that both of you need to die as Muslims, right? If one of them is dying as a non-Muslim, right, you don't have the partner joining you in paradise. That's one. The second thing is like, so dying as Muslim doesn't just mean that you said that you're a Muslim. But if you said you're a Muslim, from an external perspective, we treat you as a Muslim, right? However, the actions of Islam, like the 5 daily prayers, is not to make Allah more powerful or anything like that. It's a testament to your own faith, right? I should be worried that, look, if I call myself, I'm Muslim and I'm doing this dawah and telling people to become Muslim, but if I struggle with my prayers and I can't wake up for Fajr, then there's something that's telling me, hey, I prefer some other stuff over the commands of Allah, right? So either there's I don't necessarily believe, or I believe, but like, my submission is to something else. So if there's someone who says, yeah, I'm a Muslim, but never prays or prays like once in a while, I mean, I can't make a judgment, but there is a very high risk that that person is not ending up as a Muslim. I'm not saying any individual, but there's a very high risk, right? So that's one. The second thing is, like, even as Muslim, like born Muslims, when they are looking for marriage or marriage partners, it's encouraged for them to look at someone that is, that will help them actually be at least a baseline Muslim, right? Which is the 5 daily prayers, the pillars, and so on and so forth. Now, if you want to excel, you want to volunteer, you want to seek knowledge, you want to be a teacher, you want to do dawah, then you ideally want to have a partner who also wants to do that. Right? So even as born Muslim, you want to have someone who is, at the same level as you or a bit higher or have the same aspirations, right? So for example, if you just want to do bare minimum and you go and marry someone, who really wants to excel, right? And she's like, oh, I'm going to classes, right? I'm going to classes on weekends, or I have seminars. Like, no, weekends are for parks, right? Now both options are fine, but you need to see, like, what would work for you. And more importantly, if you're going to marry someone who doesn't pray, then you're not helping yourself. And if you have kids down the line, you're not really helping themselves either, right? So it's not just like a check mark. But yes, from a society perspective, yes, we can't say that you are doing haram, right? Because the person is Muslim. And now the same thing actually applies. So you asked a very important question. I was thinking about maybe should we go into it or not. Like, is there any way that you can actually marry a non-Muslim? So there is. You may not like the answer,
okay,
but that is for guys.
Oh, okay.
So technically speaking, guys can marry someone who is a chaste woman, right? So she has to be chaste, right? From and following Christianity or Judaism.
Okay, I think I might have either read something about that or somebody had told me something about that. They have to be following a book, essentially.
Yeah, so the people, we call it, the Quran calls it people of the book, right? Okay. Which is Christians or Jews, right? In today's land. However, it's not encouraged, right? It may be very close to haram, very close to dislike. Now, the same things would apply, like, why are you doing that, right? Now, it is a permissibility, right? So they can actually do it. And at least there were times where it would make a lot of sense. Okay, so for example, like, I mean, how did Islam reach to me, right? I mean, I don't have an Arab lineage, right? So technically speaking, someone in my family also converted at some point. So how did Islam, obviously there were people who were traveling, they were leaving their lands, right? And going to different lands and, taking over or doing dawah, whatever it is, right? Now, there may be situations that they don't have any women or any spouse or anybody with them, right? So it may make sense for them to marry, for example, Christians and Jews from that land, right? But where you have Muslims available, you're really doing yourself a disservice, and different scholars have different comments on that, if you can even do that or not. But as I said, like, you should not even marry a weak Muslim who doesn't pray, let alone now marrying a Christian or a Jew, right? But technically speaking, it is not impermissible, but definitely not a good thing to do.